The 2019 Stanley Cup playoffs start on Wednesday night, and here are my 2019 playoff preview and predictions. Let's start in the Eastern Conference. Gonna predict the entire Eastern Conference bracket, and then do the same for the West. So let's start with Tampa Bay and Columbus. Out of the three potential 8 seeds, Carolina, Montreal, and Columbus, I think Columbus is the best matchup for Tampa Bay when you consider a possible upset. I would give Tampa Bay a clear advantage in net and on offense. Their offense is deadly. But I think Columbus, when they're playing well, is a pretty deep team themselves. And they do have Sergei Bobrovsky. So what version of him are we going to see? He struggled down the stretch. I think if he plays well, there's a potential upset in the making here. I have Tampa Bay in 7. Yes, I said 7, because I really do think this is going to be a closer series than a lot of people think. And even though Tampa Bay had an amazing regular season, the playoffs are always different, and I think Columbus can play a very physical game. Tampa Bay plays more of a finesse game. Not going to get into the too much of the analytical side of things with throwing too many numbers at you, but I do think Tampa Bay will win in 7 games, and Columbus will win in no fewer than 7 games. But I think Tampa Bay has this pretty well locked up in 7. Moving on to Boston and Toronto. Toronto has not played well down the stretch, and I have no confidence in Toronto whatsoever. I like the Boston Bruins. I'm going to say Boston takes their first round series versus Toronto in 5 games. Now, there's potential for it to go 6 or 7 games. Again, it depends on what version of Toronto we get. They've played decently well in the playoffs the last few years, and haven't played well in pressure-packed games, but I think Boston is going to be too much for them. Like I say, I don't have much faith in the way they've played the last month, losing the teams they should have beat. So I'm going to say Boston in 5. Moving on to Washington and Carolina. Now, Washington, clear-cut favorite in this series, but don't count Carolina out. I think this series will go 6 games. Washington will win in 6. There is potential for it to go 7. And if Carolina is going to win, it would be in 7 games. But I think they're not going to knock off the defending Stanley Cup champions. But there is a good chance it could go to 6 games. I have Washington winning that. Moving on to the Islanders and Pittsburgh. This series is a little bit tougher to judge. I think it's going to go 7. And Pittsburgh is going to win in 7. The reason I say that is because I think, in my opinion, the Islanders match up quite well with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's played a lot of hockey over the last few years. 2 of the last 3 years they've won the Cup. We've seen them, kind of struggle in the regular season this year at times. And the Islanders have had an amazing season and exceeded expectations, I'm sure, of what anyone thought they would do. So I have Pittsburgh just narrowly beating the Islanders in 7 games, and I think this is going to be my favorite series to watch of the first round in the Eastern Conference. Let's move on to the second round. Tampa Bay and Boston. I have Tampa Bay winning this series in 7 games. I like Boston. I think they can push Tampa Bay to 7 games. It could potentially end in 6 with Tampa Bay winning it in 6, but I don't think Boston beats Tampa Bay in any less than 7. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay. Moving on to the next matchup in the second round, Washington and Pittsburgh. I'm sure a lot of people would pick Pittsburgh to beat Washington. They've had their number in the playoffs, and with the exception of last year. But if Washington gets by Carolina and doesn't shit the bed in the first round, I see them beating Pittsburgh in 7, possibly even 6. But I think the safe bet is Washington in 7 games, or to pick the series to go the full 7 games. Nothing against Pittsburgh. They can definitely beat Washington, but I like Washington to beat Pittsburgh. Eastern Conference Final. Tampa Bay and Washington is what I have. There's could very easily be Tampa Bay winning this series, but I like Washington more. I'm not one of these guys that, has all this fandom towards Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay is a little bit overrated. They are going to make the conference final. I have no doubt in that. But Washington is going to beat them in 7. That is my prediction for the Eastern Conference, up to the Eastern Conference final. Let's move on to the first round in the West. First matchup: Calgary versus Colorado. I have Calgary winning this in 6. Saying 6 games to respect the Colorado Avalanche. They have a decent team. And Calgary hasn't played that well the last month or so of the regular season. They stumbled a little bit. Their lead in the Pacific Division has evaporated. So I think the 8th seed in the West is going to give Calgary all they can handle, but I think Calgary beats Colorado in 7 games. Moving on, San Jose and Vegas. Again, this is probably going to be the series that I'm most excited to watch in the West in the first round. I think it goes 7 games because I think both San Jose and Vegas are evenly matched. And I'm picking San Jose in 7. I just think, even though Vegas has Marc-Andre Fleury, I like San Jose's defense and playoff experience more than Vegas. Vegas has probably just as good of an offense, if not better. But San Jose did improve their offense at the trade deadline, adding Gus Nyquist. I expect him to pitch in the playoffs. And I expect it to be a pretty defensive series, to be honest. I'm picking San Jose in 7. Potentially San Jose in 6, but respecting Vegas, I'll say San Jose in 7. Moving on, Nashville and Dallas. I think this is a bit of a mismatch. Don't get me wrong, I like Dallas. If they were playing Calgary, I would potentially call on them to upset the Flames if they were playing them. But they drew Nashville in the first round, and I honestly see Nashville winning this series in 5 games. And I would love to see it go 6 or 7, but I just don't think it will. Nashville's got too good of a team. I would give them an advantage in goaltending, defense, offense, in terms of their depth in all those areas. Again, not taking anything away from Dallas, I just don't think their goaltending is that deep. And while they have a decent offense and a decent defense, I don't see them winning any more than 1 game in that series. Moving on to the last matchup in the first round of the West, Winnipeg and St. Louis. And this is going to be a very close series. Very hard to pick a winner, but I'm going with Winnipeg over St. Louis. They match up very well on paper. Winnipeg does have the advantage in the season series, and it's been a tale of 2 different teams. Washington has not played well near the end of the season. St. Louis didn't start well this season, and from February on, they really turned it around. Both teams ended up with 99 points, but I like Winnipeg to win in 7. Don't get me wrong, I like St. Louis, and there's a potential for them to easily upset Winnipeg, but I don't see St. Louis going any further than the first round, unfortunately. Moving on to the second round in the West, Calgary and San Jose. I have Calgary narrowly winning versus San Jose. It's going to be in 7. Really hard to pick a winner. It could go either way, really. I think you could even give San Jose the advantage on defense and offense. But goaltending, they're pretty well even. I like Martin Jones a little bit better than David Riddick or Mike Smith, but I just think, I honestly think Calgary has a better offense and match up well with San Jose on defense. San Jose's defense has been a little underwhelming compared to what I'm sure a lot of people thought they would be. I'm taking Calgary to beat San Jose in 7. Moving on, Nashville and Winnipeg. I got Nashville winning that in 7. Expected to be a close series, expected to be a very rough series. But I'm saying Nashville in 7. Western Conference Final, Calgary and Nashville. I got Nashville winning it in 6. If Calgary even makes it to the conference final, they'll be lucky to go 6 with Nashville. I think it's a no-brainer that Nashville is a favorite to come out of the West, and I got them beating Calgary in 6, unfortunately, for us Canadian fans. That would mean that Stanley Cup final, in my opinion, would be Nashville and Washington, and I've got Nashville repeating as Stanley Cup champions, beating Nashville in 7 games. Now, I would love to see Nashville win the Cup. I think there's a good chance they could, but I also think there's a very good chance that Washington could get back to the Cup final, and if they do, they're my pick to win in 7 games. And guys, those are my 2019 Stanley Cup playoff predictions. Again, just my opinion. Hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know your predictions in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video.